When you think of metal, what comes to mind? Probably something industrial, right? Cold, rigid. But what happens when an artist gets a hold of it? Well, that's what we're here to talk about. We're going to trace this incredible journey of how metal went from just stuff in a factory to something that creates powerful, moving art. So that's really the big question, isn't it? How do you turn something as cold and hard as steel into pure emotion? I mean, how can sculptors possibly take this unyielding material and use it to talk about everything from deep personal trauma to, playful pop culture commentary? Let's get into it. All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll look at how it all started, that jump from industry to art. Then we'll get into the soul of steel itself. After that, we'll see how it became part of pop culture with some real icons. Then we'll go big, sculpture on a city scale. And finally, we'll peek into the future and see what's being forged next. So let's kick things off. Our story really starts back in the early 20th century. This is when a few really bold artists started looking at all these industrial materials. And they weren't just seeing tools anymore. They were seeing the art itself. This was, you could say, the very first spark of the revolution. And this collaboration, wow, it was a total game changer. I mean, before Julio Gonzalez and Picasso got together, sculpture was pretty much all about carved stone or cast bronze, the classics. But by welding iron directly, they basically invented a whole new artistic language. It was raw, it was direct, and it was just completely, unapologetically modern. Okay, so once that door was kicked open, a couple of groundbreaking artists really took this new language and ran with it. And they took metal sculpture in these really personal and totally different directions. So on one side, you've got Louise Bourgeois. Her work is just intensely emotional. It's often figurative, and it's all about exploring her inner world. But then, on the other side, you have David Smith. He fully embraced the industrial side of steel to create these huge, abstract statements that were really looking outward. I mean, talk about two completely different philosophies. Bourgeois, she poured her whole life into her art, her memories, her anxieties, everything. Her most famous piece is probably Maman, which is this absolutely massive spider, over 30 feet tall. But here's the thing, it's not just a scary creature. For her, it was a really powerful symbol of her mother, a protector who was both fierce and fragile at the same time. She basically proved that metal could be used to map out our deepest, most complex psychological landscapes. And this quote from her, it just gets right to the heart of it all. Art is a guarantee of sanity. For her, making these sculptures wasn't just, an artistic practice. No, it was essential. It was therapeutic. It was her way of processing the world and dealing with her own past. Okay, now to really get a grip on David Smith, you have to understand the art world he was in. This was the era of abstract expressionism. So you had painters like Jackson Pollock doing his famous drip paintings, right? Splashing paint all over the canvas. Well, Smith was basically doing the same thing, but in 3D, with welded steel. He literally took that whole movement off the wall and dropped it right in the middle of the room with you. And see, Smith didn't try to hide where his materials came from. He celebrated the fact that it was industrial. His famous QB series is a perfect example. It's all these stainless steel cubes and rectangles playing with balance and light and form. They're not sculptures of a thing, they just are their own thing. Someone brilliantly called them drawings in space, and that's exactly what they feel like. His work completely redefined American sculpture. All right, so building on that foundation, let's jump forward a bit. Let's see how artists in the late 20th and early 21st centuries just took these ideas and absolutely ran with them, using metal to reflect, and yeah, I mean that literally, our modern world of pop culture, consumerism, and media. Enter Jeff Koons. He takes these everyday, almost silly objects, like a balloon animal from a kid's party, and turns them into high art. How? By remaking them in this flawless, mirror-polished stainless steel. And yeah, his work is super playful on the surface, but it's also making a really sharp point about consumer culture, about what we think is valuable and what we choose to celebrate as a society. And this quote from him, it really says it all. I believe in advertisement and media completely. He's not standing on the sidelines critiquing media culture. He's diving right in. And those shiny, reflective surfaces, totally intentional. They're designed to be seductive, to be perfect for an Instagram photo, and to literally put you, the viewer, right in the center of the whole spectacle, which is a perfect segue to the work of Anish Kapoor. He takes the idea of reflection to a whole new level. Sculptures like Cloudgate, which everybody, let's be honest, calls the bean, they don't just sit there. They suck in and distort the whole world around them. They reflect the city's skyline, the clouds, and every single person who comes up to it. In a very real sense, the artwork isn't even complete until you're a part of it. So that idea of public engagement, let's scale that way, way up. Now we're talking about monumental metal sculptures that have become actual landmarks for entire cities and even whole countries. And the ambition here is just staggering. Seriously, think about Antony Gormley's Angel of the North watching over a highway in England, or those mythical Kelpies in Scotland, or the tallest statue on the planet, the Statue of Unity in India. This isn't just art anymore. This is a massive feat of engineering and a powerful statement about identity. And the stuff is happening all over the globe. A sculpture can be a super powerful symbol for peace, like the knotted gun you see outside the UN. Or it can completely transform a rural landscape, like the crazy cool sculptures along the Enchanted Highway. It can be a symbol of pride for a sports team, or even a giant mechanical flower that actually opens and closes with the sun in the middle of a city. The possibilities are just endless. So finally, what's next? Where does metal sculpture go from here? Let's take a quick peek at how a new generation of artists is keeping things fresh and innovating with this unbelievably versatile medium. You've got emerging artists like Anastasia Prochenko who are really pushing the boundaries all over again. She takes industrial steel, the material we think of as rigid and strong, and she uses it to create these delicate, organic shapes that look like they're inspired by plants and animals. It's this beautiful fusion that just goes to show you there's still so much new ground to cover. So from a single welded line all the way to a 600-foot monument, it's clear that metal sculpture has become this powerful narrator of our human story. It reflects our anxieties, our celebrations, our biggest ambitions. So the real question now is, what new stories are future artists going to forge in this incredible material? Something to think about. Thanks for watching.